Now to our other top story, new laws will impact how you purchase and carry firearms.
Of domestic abuse, you shouldn't have a gun. If you're on social media threatening the lives of people, you shouldn't have a gun.
Maybe now they've just priced you out of the market because you can't afford to pay those fees to get a permit.
The law required prospective gun owners to give proper cause for why they wanted to carry a handgun in public.
The law, also known as SB 2, bans people from carrying guns in 26 places.
People thought that the federal government would never be able to get a gun law bill passed again. They got one done in the last year.
He told me that the new laws go too far, and he said they aren't even needed in the first place.
The state of California is currently pushing to pass a statewide arms registration of every single arm that you own, along with an annual fee that you'll have to pay every single year to maintain the legal possession of those arms that are now lawful for you to own, but for which you will now have to pay a tax. The state of California has once again clearly defined the Supreme Court and the Second Amendment. Analysis of California's SB 160. The new concerning bill is being pushed in the state of California, adding to the already extensive set of arm control laws. This proposed legislation, known as SB 160, mandates the statewide registration of every arm owned by individuals, coupled with an annual fee for lawful possession. Not only does this infringe on constitutional rights through forced registration, but it also imposes a recurring charge for exercising Second Amendment rights. Introduced by Anthony Portino, a prominent anti-arms senator from California, SB 160 follows his earlier involvement in passing SB 2, which effectively banned concealed carry throughout the state. SB 2 is currently facing legal challenges with a lawsuit that is a part of alongside Rio May, filed by CRPA and now before the Ninth Circuit.
Now to our other top story, new laws will impact how you purchase and carry firearms.
The law, also known as SB 2, bans people from carrying guns in 26 places.
For removing weapons of war from the streets of America, we're actually telling them to repeal the Second Amendment.
So right now you have to do an 8-hour course, and on the first, it actually is going to double the course to 16 hours, and then renewals are 4 hours.
Is it the most robust, far-reaching gun law in the history of the world? It is not.
Portino is the same senator who advanced for the restrictive SB 2 on television, suggesting that concealed carry should be limited to sidewalks and dismissing the need for arms at public events by saying, "All you need is orange slices." Clearly, he holds extreme anti-arm views and appears aligned with various anti-arm groups. Now, let's dive into the specifics of SB 160. The bill's summary indicates that existing law already mandates the sale or transfer of any arm to be processed through a licensed arms dealer. Additionally, licensed arm dealers are required to record specific information for each transaction and submit that data to the Department of Justice. In light of these developments, it's crucial to discuss what actions must be taken both within California and by those outside the state to oppose this bill. The proposed legislation poses a threat to fundamental rights, and collective efforts are necessary to address and counteract its potential impact.
Of domestic abuse, you shouldn't have a gun. If you're on social media threatening the lives of people, you shouldn't have a gun.
For a case to be brought to go in front of one of those judges and to have an outcome similar to what we've seen in the past.
They are obsessed with attacking law-abiding Americans' Second Amendment liberties.
He told me that the new laws go too far, and he said they aren't even needed in the first place.
Their legal analysis is poor, their conclusions are misguided, their outcomes are dangerous.
Existing registration laws in California. We'd like to highlight a crucial aspect of the bill, SB 160, which might be overlooked. The legislation refers to existing California laws that necessitate every arms sale or transfer, including private party transactions and those involving precursor parts under the recent ghost arm ban, to go through a licensed arm dealer. Notably, these laws also extend to the registration of these arms with the California Department of Justice. The state already operates multiple systems, such as the CFARS and the CRIS system, to maintain information regarding arms possession within California. These data banks track the ownership and transfer of arms, forming a comprehensive registry. While some gaps exist due to laws enacted only in recent years, this bill aims to address and bridge these gaps by identifying and registering every single arm brought into and possessed within the state. it's essential to recognize that California has various existing laws like the attack weapon registration, requirements for out-of-state individuals bringing arms into the state, and even provisions within the CCW carry a concealed weapon permitting the system.
Maybe now they've just priced you out of the market because you can't afford to pay those fees to get a permit.
The law required prospective gun owners to give proper cause for why they wanted to carry a handgun in public.
That they have taken away our right to have reasonable restrictions. We can have restrictions on speech,
including public parks and playgrounds, churches, banks, and zoos.
We are paying for these weapons of war on our streets with the blood of our children.
This is a violation of that federal law. The federal judge that initially ruled in this agreed, saying it's up to Congress.
All these contribute to a system that identifies and tracks arms possession. However, SB 160 seeks to establish a statewide registry encompassing all arms irrespective of specific regulations. Moreover, it proposes penalties and infractions for non-compliance with this registration requirement. The bill intends to create a comprehensive database that identifies all lawfully owned arms, providing authorities with detailed information on who owns that, potentially leading to further actions based on this data. As the bill progresses, it's crucial to evaluate its implications and consider the broader context of existing arm regulations in California. The proposed changes raises questions about privacy, the extent of government oversight, and the potential consequences for lawful arm owners in the state. Enforcement measures. The measure proposes to exempt farmers from the requirement that they register with the department on an annual basis. However, there's a catch associated with this exemption. Farmers will still be obliged to pay an annual fee. Once this charge has been collected, it'll be put into a special fund that has been designed specifically for the purpose of managing the administration and enforcement of the arm register. According to the proposal, the department is required to create and maintain a system for the annual registration of arms, as well as facilitate the sharing of registration information with other law enforcement authorities when it's deemed essential. According to the provisions of the bill, the department is required to make reasonable measures to inform arm dealers, arm owners, and the general public about the procedures for registering arms. This creates a more extensive and all-encompassing registration system in the state of California, which mandates that owners of arms pay an annual fee in order to keep custody of their arms.
The appeals court that was asked to step in and allow the regulations to continue agreed with the district court judge.
That's not a right of government. That's a right that each of us has as Americans.
And they're saying, they have the authority to do that. The gun rights groups that are suing.
Saturday, a federal appeals court put a temporary hold on the district's judge ruling.
Members of Congress are also trying to answer what the Attorney General just called the most difficult question in a democracy.
Another aspect that raises concerns is the manner in which the fees that are collected, which are essentially a tax on the ownership of arms, would be utilized. In order to put into effect and ensure compliance with the arm control restrictions contained in the bill, this money may be utilized by law enforcement agencies, officers, and maybe even new law enforcement departments. In light of this, not only would your right be subject to taxation, but the fees and taxes that would be imposed as a consequence might be used against people who own arms in the state. An important remark is included in the bill, which states that registration shall not be deemed evidence that the registrant is lawfully entitled to acquire or possess the registered arm, or that they're the lawful owner of that arm. This is an interesting and noteworthy statement. This states that although the measure requires the registration of all arms that are at the owner's disposal, it doesn't automatically presume that the ownership of the arms is legal. The state may conduct separate inspections of the registered things in order to verify that they're in lawful possession. Furthermore, the measure makes it abundantly clear that the possession of an arm that hasn't been registered would constitute a violation that would be equivalent to an infraction. A person that is found to be in possession of, carrying, or having custody or control over a handgun that is subject to registration but is not currently registered would be considered guilty of an infraction and would be subject to a significant $1,000 fine for each arm that they have in their possession beginning July 1st, 2025. This raises concerns about the potential financial burden and legal implications that could be imposed on handgun owners who fail to comply with the registration requirements established in Senate Bill 160. A threat to legal arm ownership. This new legislation poses a significant threat to lawful arm owners in California as it seeks to impose hefty fines amounting to thousands of dollars on those who fail to comply with its unconstitutional registration process. The bill deems it illegal to possess legally owned arms without registering them under this new law, emphasizing the harsh consequences for non-compliance. To add to the concern, the bill lacks clarity on the registration procedure, referring to a system that the California Department of Justice will establish in the future.
People thought that the federal government would never be able to get a gun law bill passed again. They got one done in the last year.
Permits, and it's none or very, very, very few.
In most public places, even with the concealed carry permit, is now in effect, even as the case makes its way through the courts.
They are coming for your guns. They're listing them out in this extensive legislation.
These laws come into effect in the aftermath of mass shootings that have rocked the state and nation.
The costs associated with registering each arm remain unspecified at this time. The bill outlines that individuals choosing not to register an arm may be required to surrender it to any local law enforcement agency, framing such surrender as a nuisance. The registration process, as outlined in the bill, includes the payment of an initial or renewal registration fee, the amount of which is determined by the department. The fees that are intended to cover the costs associated with the administration and enforcement of the division, and the department is authorized to annually adjust these fees as needed. For arm owners who resist the registration requirement, an alternative is presented: surrender the arms to law enforcement. This choice raises concerns about the potential confiscation and destruction of legally owned arms. This bill, SB 160, stands in direct opposition to Supreme Court decisions and violates the Second Amendment, along with the recent 6-3 decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. It's imperative for every arm owner in California to reach out to the representatives expressing strong opposition to this unconstitutional bill. For those outside of California, support from your end is crucial. And that's going to do it for this video. See you all next time, and bye for now.